Hello everyone, this is Earth Archives. It is generally known that the first person to reach the North Pole was Robert Peary, a white man. However, some people say that Matthew Alexander Hansen, a black explorer from Baltimore in the same team, was the recipient of this honor. Let's learn about this today's story. Before the show starts, please subscribe, share, and turn on the little bell. This will help us grow faster. Without further ado, the show begins. In the frosty grip of April 6, 1909, Commander Robert Peary wasn't exactly throwing a victory party up in the Arctic. Nope, he was eyeballing his surroundings like a poker player with a suspicious hand. See, he'd been on this wild ride, his last hurrah to the North Pole, and the journey was about as smooth as a cat trying to swim. Now, Peary was hailed as the big shot who reached the tippy top of the world first, but let's rewind a bit. Turns out, the real MVP of Team Peary was this dude from Baltimore named Matthew Alexander Hansen. But history, yeah, it gave him the cold shoulder for a hot minute. Picture this, Peary's crew was dragging themselves across that icy wasteland for weeks, feeling like ants at a picnic. And just when they thought they had it tough, Peary goes for an impromptu dip in a frigid pool. Ice cold, right, but they weren't about to throw in the towel. With Peary half frozen and the crew looking like they were auditioning for a snowman role, 4 Inuit hunters, Ukea, Uta, Agingwa, and Siglu, were like, chill, we got this. Oh, and Hansen, he took a dip too. Now, here's where it gets real. Hansen's recount in his memoir, A Negro Explorer at the North Pole, reads like something out of a survival flick. He's like, so there I was, feeling like a frozen popsicle, when faithful old Uta grabs me by the scruff like I'm his lost puppy. With one hand, he yanks me out of that icy abyss, while the other hand's hustling the team forward. Talk about teamwork, right? Hansen's story isn't just about reaching the pole. It's about grit, friendship, and the kind of courage that could melt even the iciest heart. Hansen and Peary's accounts of reaching the North Pole. In the heat of their polar pursuit, fueled by the tantalizing closeness of their destination, the team surged ahead, driven by a cocktail of adrenaline and anticipation. Peary, bless his icy heart, was lagging behind like a snowbound snail. Finally, with the chill of the Arctic night setting in, they called it quits. The commander, who was trailing behind like a lost penguin, hollered something about setting up camp. Hansen jotted down in his memoir. After a measly catnap that probably felt more like a power nap, Peary, with the accuracy of a frozen Sherlock Holmes, whipped out his measuring tools to pinpoint their exact spot. We were at the end of the road, or should I say ice road, Peary wrote in his book, sounding like a man who'd just run a marathon through a blizzard. I was so wiped out, I couldn't even process that we'd hit the jackpot of my life's quest. According to Peary's number crunching, they'd hit pay dirt, the North Pole. Hansen nodded in agreement. We double-checked our coordinates, and lo and behold, when we hoisted that flag, it was smack dab in the middle of nowhere, just where it was supposed to be, Hansen recounted. But hold your snowshoes, because Peary's claim eventually got thrown in the icebox of doubt. By the 80s, even the National Geographic Society, one of Peary's sugar daddies, was giving his story the side eye. Now, here's the kicker. If Peary did bag that pole, who got there first? Well, some whisperings in the history books say it was none other than Hansen. When the compass went bonkers, Hansen reminisced in a 36 interview, I plopped myself down, waiting for Mr. Peary. About 45 minutes later, he showed up, and we decided to wait for sunrise to confirm our GPS skills. And wouldn't you know it, come morning, Peary turns to me and says, Matt, we've hit pay dirt, the North Pole, baby. Hansen overlooked. In the wild rush of exploration as the 20th century dawned, it was like a global game of hide and seek, with adventurers scrambling to tag every last uncharted spot on the map. And guess who was hogging the spotlight? Yep, you guessed it. The same old gang of white dudes, strutting around like they owned the place. But let's not forget the unsung heroes, like our man Hansen. Born into a world where the odds were stacked against him, Hansen's journey started in Nanjemoy, Maryland, back in 1866. Orphaned before he could even tie his own shoelaces, he set sail into the great unknown at the tender age of 12, cutting his teeth as a cabin boy on the high seas. Talk about starting from the bottom. As he sailed the 7 seas, Hansen soaked up knowledge like a sponge, picking up languages and skills faster than you can say, ahoy. Fast forward a bit, and you'll find him in Washington, D.C., slinging furs like he was born to do it. Now, cue Commander Peary, rolling into town like a big shot. He spots Henson, sees the spark of adventure in his eyes, and boom, a partnership is born. Together, they're like a dynamic duo, blazing trails through the jungles of Nicaragua, hacking through the rainforests of Central America, and then, drumroll, please, tackling the icy expanse of the Arctic. So, while the history books might try to sweep their partnership under the rug, we know the truth. Henson wasn't just along for the ride, he was the engine that kept that expedition chugging along, no matter how frostbitten their toes got. Controversy over North Pole claims. Just when Peary and Henson thought they had the North Pole in their pocket, along comes Dr. Cook, their old nemesis, stirring up trouble with claims of reaching the pole a whole year earlier. Talk about a cold slap in the face. Now, here's the kicker. Cook's bragging rights got ice-bucketed quicker than you can say, frostbite. Turns out, his claim was as solid as a snowman in July. But with the North Pole playing hard to get, who could blame folks for being a tad skeptical? Amidst the icy tug-of-war over who got there first, whispers started floating around. Some said it was Henson who planted that flag in the frosty turf, backed up by tales from Inuit witnesses and snapshots from their trusty camera. But, like a snowball rolling downhill, the dispute turned into a full-blown blizzard, driving a wedge right through the heart of the Peary-Henson partnership. After 2 decades of blazing trails and braving blizzards together, Peary and Henson found themselves on thin ice. Peary, claiming the spotlight for himself like a kid with a shiny new toy, conveniently forgot his partner's pivotal role in their polar escapades. Henson, left out in the cold, couldn't help but feel the chill of betrayal. From the moment we hit that pole, it was like I was invisible to Peary, he mused, his voice heavy with the weight of disappointment. It nearly broke my heart. That he'd just up and leave without so much as a nod my way. Matthew the kind one. Peary may have hogged the spotlight like a moth to a flame, but behind the scenes, it was Henson who was pulling the strings, or in this case, hauling the sledges. While Peary basked in the glory, Henson was the unsung hero, the glue holding their Arctic odyssey together. Picture this. While Peary was busy taking credit for every milestone they crossed, Henson was the one sweating it out, crafting and maintaining those sledges like a master carpenter. Not to mention, he was the brains behind the operation, teaching their Western buddies the ins and outs of survival in the icy wasteland. But Henson wasn't just a handyman, he was a cultural chameleon, blending in seamlessly with the Inuit locals like he was born to it. Known as Marapalik, or Matthew the Kind One, he wasn't just fluent in the Inuit language, he was practically a walking Rosetta Stone. And while Peary was probably struggling to ask for directions, Henson was busy making friends and learning the secrets of Arctic survival. Even their own teammate, Donald B. McMillan, couldn't help but sing Henson's praises. He was the real deal, McMillan gushed in National Geographic magazine. With skills that could give Peary a run for his money. Now, let's set the record straight. Whether they actually made it to the North Pole or not, Henson was the linchpin of that expedition. Peary himself knew it. He couldn't make it to the corner store without Henson by his side, let alone the top of the world. As Peary put it, Henson must go all the way, and for once, he wasn't just blowing hot air. Hello everyone, this is Earth Archives. It is generally known that the first person to reach the North Pole was Robert Peary, a white man. However, some people say that Matthew Alexander Hansen, a black explorer from Baltimore in the same team, was the recipient of this honor. Let's learn about this today's story. Before the show starts, please subscribe, share, and turn on the little bell. This will help us grow faster. Without further ado, the show begins. What do you think about this story? Please leave your comments. See you in the next episode.